Functional Flex. We're in the strength cave. I'm gonna break it down for you guys today. We're gonna go over a little bit of muscle anatomy, how to train the glutes. Okay, so we're gonna go over in this video the basic stuff you gotta know, how the glutes work and why you need to know that, how to activate them, how to get them to actually train for you so you don't get muscle imbalances and things like that, and then how do we exactly train them, what's the best movements, what's gonna give us the most bang for our buck, what do we need to do to warm up, all these things we're gonna cover in this video. So it doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, whatever you're trying to do, you're trying to work the glutes, you wanna get some development, you wanna get some strength, whatever your purpose is there, I got you covered. We're gonna go over it. First things you guys gotta know, two basic muscles we really wanna talk about today in the glutes. We're talking about the Glute Max right here, boom, boom. This is gonna be your superficial, your outside layer of the glute that everybody can see, your actual physical ass cheek. That's what we're talking about. This is the one that fills out your jeans, the one everybody's always trying to work for the aesthetics, to get the booty to pop, to get whatever you're trying to do to work, okay? If you're a competitor, that's the one that you really care about the most. Then we're looking at underneath you guys, underneath this Glute Max is called Glutamine, okay? So this is this guy right here, this is underneath. These two things right here are gonna be about 90% of your glute development, glute gains. We got other little glute muscles in here, but we're not gonna talk about those today. So how do we get into this? How do the glutes actually work? Well, they're a hip extensor, you guys. What that means is they drive hip extension. So how do we train them? So we gotta go into hip flexion and then hip extension. So think about some of the common glute movements, right? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? The squat. Squat is always the king kind of glute developer, quote unquote king glute developer, where you're gonna go into a hip flex position, right, as we squat down, and then as we stand up, we go into a hip extended position, and that's gonna train the glutes. But it's also gonna train a bunch of other muscles, you guys, so it's actually not one of the best ones for us to work on. Deadlifts come to mind next, right? We're talking about deadlifts. What happens in a deadlift? We go into hip flexion, and then we go into hip extension. That again is a hip flexion, hip extension. That's how we train the glute. It's gonna work your glutes too, but again, it is not the number one, you guys. So what's the number one glute bidder? What do we need to do to really train the glutes? Barbell hip thrusts, barbell hip bridge, whatever you want to call it, you guys. You put your back on the bench, get the barbell on your lap, you drop your ass down towards the floor, and you bridge it up, squeeze at the top. I'm gonna put a video right here so you guys know what that looks like. This is the number one. Why? Why is this the number one? Because we're going into hip flexion, hip extension, in an isolated environment where we can really just target the glute muscles. Now, why does a squat not target them? Why does a deadlift not target them? It does target them, you guys, don't get me wrong, but it also targets many other things. For example, when you go into a squat, you're also gonna be training your quads, your hamstrings, your low back, a bunch of other muscles at the same time. So if the glutes are not fired up, they're not kicking off at the same rate, they're not firing when you need them, you're gonna be training the other muscles a lot more. Same with your deadlifts, you guys. You go into your deadlifts, depending on how well your glutes are fired up, you're gonna be training your low back, you're gonna be training your hamstrings, you might be compensating doing something else weird. The point is though, on a barbell hip bridge, all you gotta use is the glute. That's all you get. And we go into a flexed hip position at the bottom. We go into an extended tall hip bridge position at the top. Number one glute builder right there for you guys. Most important thing you know is that you need to warm up the glutes before you train. Why? Because you guys, so many of us spend time sitting on our ass way more than we do working it. It's true, it doesn't matter if you're doing leg day 3 times a week, I don't care. You spend a lot of time sitting in the car, sitting at desk, sitting at work, sitting at the house watching TV. Whatever you're doing, you're spending more time sitting on your ass than you are working it. And I say this all the time because it's true. And you guys, you see what happens when we sit. We compress the glute muscles. It's compressed, it's restricted from blood flow, the nerve endings aren't stimulated, all kinds of things are happening that cause us to go into this kind of ass sleeping position where your glutes literally go to sleep and they're not awake. Now you go from your desk job or from your car, you go try to train, and every other muscle in your body's good to go. Glutes are asleep, and you think you're training glutes when you're doing squats. Really, you're just overdeveloping your quads, and you're not even hitting the glutes at all. So no matter what you're doing, you guys, you gotta work the glutes. You're in the warm-up mode first. Then how we do it, we're gonna hit it a couple ways. You gotta do isolation kind of exercises where you're gonna work it. Floor bridges, where you're doing single leg to really get the hip flexion, hip extension, that's gonna kick it off. You can do single leg deadlifts, things like that. You can do variances of lunges, all types of things. You can do some bands works, all all this stuff is gonna work, you guys, but the point is you need to take 10-15 minutes before you train glutes to warm them up and get them firing first. You literally gotta get them going to get them to work when you train here. The hierarchy of exercise you guys should focus on. Start with your glute bridges after your warm-ups, okay? That's gonna really isolate the glute. We're gonna get it to fire, we're gonna get it to work the way we want to, and you can put a lot of poundage on this exercise, okay? Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, you should be putting up some real good weight right here as you do this. I have many women on my team that are doing glute bridges with 200-300 pounds every time they do it, and it's a really good way to get those muscles to fire, because then we're gonna roll right into our squats, okay? So squats, now that we've already fired these up, we got the squats working, that's when we're gonna go ahead and hit that again. But now, since we already warmed it up, it's gonna work at a much higher capacity. Now we're gonna take this right over to the squats, okay? So you've done your glute bridge, it's working, we're fired up. We go to squats now, we can actually feel the glute working as we train. We can get it to fire, we can get it to work, hip flexion, hip extension, more balance between the quads, the hamstrings, and the glutes together to get much better development, much better result. We're not overtraining one muscle or another. After you do your squats, you guys, I want you to roll right into your deadlift type exercises, okay? So your deadlifts now, you can do stiff legs, you can do whatever variation needed to be doing. But the point is after we've done the bridge, we've done the squat, we're real good and warmed up right here now to isolate them again and hit them again in the deadlift. This combo right here, that's your 3 compounds you absolutely must hit to get the best development in the glutes. After that, you guys, you can roll into any types of isolations. You can do some cable work, you can do some lunge work, you can do single leg unilateral stuff. Whatever suits your fancy, whatever your physique really needs, that's where you want to throw it in. But you dare not be doing any glute days without doing those 3 movements in that order to really get maximal results. So one question that always comes up all the time, and then I'm gonna finish this out, is that how do we work specific parts of the glutes? Oftentimes competitors will say that they need more top glute, they need more under glute development, whatever it is. It doesn't even matter if you're a competitor, people just wanna know how to do this. Limited ranges of motion, you guys. Okay, so think squats. You go into a squat, you don't come up all the way, you're gonna work different parts of the muscle. Think deadlifts. You do a deadlift, you don't come up all the way, you're gonna work different parts of the muscle there too. All kinds of limited ranges of motion is how we're gonna really target that. You can do also other high intensity protocols like pause reps and drop sets and supersets and all these kind of things to really kick those muscles into high gear. But you guys, you gotta think about it this way. So let's say we're doing a bicep curl, right? And if I curl only this far up, I'm gonna be working the lower part of my bicep much more than the upper part. Versus if I was here and I only go here, now I'm gonna be working much more of the upper part of the bicep and less of the lower part. That's how you isolate different parts of that muscle. You wanna have variances in reps all the time, you guys. Have something to target the upper, have something to target the lower, have, of course, things to target the full picture. And that's really how you guys need to be training your glutes. You gotta understand why you're doing it, hip flexion, hip extension. You gotta get it activated. You gotta train the compounds, and then you gotta roll in the isolations. You gotta recover and let it grow. And recovery is critical, you guys. A lot of people are out there trying to train their glutes every day. A lot of girls doing that because they really wanna build the glutes, but that's not how they build. They don't build training, they build in recovery after training really hard and really well. So train smart, eat right, and recover, and your ass is gonna grow. Coach Rye is out.